Deadzone Rogue is a first-person roguelike sci-fi shooter that is currently in early access on Steam. I want to say that this review does contain some critiques that I would like to see in future updates to the game, but the game is not finished yet, so there are some changes that are coming in the future. Now, Deadzone is made by Prophecy Games. They're the same people who make Tribes 3, and if you've played Tribes before, you can definitely see the similarities in the gameplay style and overall aesthetic. I have played a lot of roguelites, and I think Deadzone has nailed the power trip aspect of roguelites. Whether you're doing a stealth build and using only a melee and hand grenade build, or going for a bottomless magazine with 100% elemental proc chance. Now, the quick synergies that can be made with the minor and major perks lets you quickly start a build within the first few arenas. Each weapon has different play styles, but doesn't make you feel like you need to pick a specific path. I found that I would stay with a few different weapons based on personal preference, but each weapon is completely viable, and I think sometimes that can be very hard to nail down when making a roguelike. One thing I really liked were the different elemental buffs that can be applied to weapons. There are a total of 4 different categories: fire, ice, electric, and void, with each element having 2 different effects. Now, these elements each have a unique augment that helps boost the effectiveness and the proc chance. When you start building into the weapon elements, the power trip really comes to life. Now, along with the elemental augments, there are other buffs that you can acquire that change the way you play. You can get a stealth melee buff, or a buff that reloads your weapons on kills, or shield and health modifiers. But there is one called Little Buddy. It's like a little drone that follows you around, and you can end up having a total of 4 of them, which is awesome, but kind of makes it more of a backseat playthrough. Now, my one issue with the drone army is that it respawns very, very quickly. Now, I was playing on normal mode, so the respawn time may change when it comes to playing on hard or easy. They have a respawn time of about 7 seconds when you first get the drone. Then as you begin to upgrade it, it shortens it down. At one point, I had 3 or 4 drones that would respond about every 2 to 3 seconds after they were destroyed. And I feel like the final upgrade of the drone augments should have the respawn time around 5 to 7 seconds, as they do quite a bit of damage and take the elemental buffs that you have as well. Another thing I would like to see changed is the stealth mechanic at the beginning of each room. As you enter in the room, you turn invisible, and you will stay invisible until you make any sort of attack. Now, it does have some benefits where you can move explosive barrels around, so you can kill large groups of enemies, or you can chunk a major boss, and it does also give you the option to explore the room that you'll be fighting in, or pick the best place to start the fight. But overall, I feel like it was not much use unless you're going for a stealth build, but I feel like the player should be encouraged to start that fight, then utilize the stealth bid. But that's just my personal idea. I would like to see more expansion on that. Now, I think a good application for stealth would be some sort of feature where you could unlock a bonus upgrade, or maybe get extra scrap if you go do a sub-objective, or maybe something where you can bypass using stealth, and instead of getting an augment or a weapon at the end once you've killed everything, you get bonus scrap or upgrade material. Speaking of upgrade materials, you can use scrap to upgrade your weapons and armor during your current run, and when you die, you lose those upgrades, and you lose all the scrap. But enemies also drop this other currency called tech, which is used to upgrade your overall character. Now, these upgrades do persist between runs, and they're very nice. You can do everything from shield recharge delay to pickup range of materials, and as you progress to Zone 2, you'll unlock this second upgrade called Superior Upgrades, which give you more bonuses based on your play style and can give you major bonuses depending how you utilize them. Now, tech drops are pretty frequent, which is very nice, and I didn't feel like I had to grind levels in order to be able to upgrade my character. I would complete or fail a run and then be able to make those upgrades needed to progress. The tech you gain when you die in the run, you keep into the next life, which is very nice. Now, one thing I thought was interesting was the way you could reset your character. You can just press the reset button and all of your upgrades and currency are refunded back to you. I was expecting to see a partial refund or maybe a special currency that was needed in order to complete the reset. I hope that in future updates there is some sort of barrier to entry when it comes to upgrading, and that it forces the player to spend their points wisely and think about what upgrades they want to use first. And another thing I would like to see in future updates would be some sort of dismantle system for the gear that is dropped during the runs. Oftentimes I was seeing a lot of gear there that I was just passing up on that I wasn't going to use because my stuff was already better. And there are certain perks that you can use or that you can get based on the amount of scrap that you're currently holding, but I feel like I was never carrying enough scrap to make them useful. And you could also use the bonus scrap to upgrade your gear or buy new gear in the fabricator stations. I think it would give an extra boost to players and allow them to expand or explore different play styles mid-run. Now, the gunplay is a lot of fun, and you can use everything from a minigun that you spin up slowly to increase fire rate to a charge rifle that does more damage the longer you aim down the sight. They all have different play styles and unique looks, which is very cool. And as you go through each run, you upgrade your gear at these fabricator stations. Now, these stations allow you to buy new gear, upgrade current gear, increase the rarity of it. You can also buy health and upgrade your armor. And when you upgrade all of these weapons, they do more damage and gain extra perks. And you can even reroll the damage type to change the element. This feature is great because you can use it to advance your elemental weapon build and keep the weapon that you're using if you really like it. Now, one thing I would like to see in the future is when the weapons upgrade, the visuals change as well. As of right now, all of the weapons keep their same look throughout every tier and elemental variant. I would love to see small changes with the weapons, like maybe the lighting element has sparks coming out of it at the barrel when it shoots, or the shotgun has magma pouring out of the front if it's a fire element. And even as the levels and the rarities increase, the visuals can also become more intense or more noticeable. I would also like to see different skins on the weapons as well, but that could fall under the elemental side of things, and you can really play with that. Now, the progression of the game is very straightforward. You move from room to room fighting different enemies. The further you're into the run, the more enemies you face, and the more variety of enemies that you have. Now, you do have the basic fodder of grunts and small drones, but as you go further on, you'll start to see things like repair drones that give health and shield generators that make enemies immune unless you destroy the generator. And as you progress through the different zones, the enemies will change and even take on elemental effects, which can give the game an interesting twist. And as of right now, there is about 15 different enemies, not including the two main bosses. Now, I hope that the game gets more updates and reaches a full release. We start to see more of an enemy variety, maybe with different abilities or utilizing some of the elements more. For example, in Zone 2, there are only a few applications in which elements are being used. The little spider drones are frost, and they'll slow you down when they hit you. There's these void drones that kind of trap you in a little vortex when they explode. And then fire, which can be avoided pretty easily as long as you keep your distance. But beyond that, it's not incorporated into the main enemy loop. Maybe there could be a void enemy that teleports, or enemies that use electricity to stun you and make you shoot your weapon off, kind of like in Payday when you get tased. And I think it would help add a little more change to the way the fights are played out. Now again, I did play on mediums, so I may not be seeing everything that is in the game, but maybe hard mode has some of these changes. As for the map layout, it's your pretty standard gauntlet. The rooms look to be procedurally generated except for a few different rooms, that being the main boss arenas as well as 1 to 2 other locations. However, they all start to blend together as you play them, but they do have a lot of fun verticality depending on the location. Now, Zone 1 and 2 have different layouts and scenery, which is very nice. When I first started playing, I was worried that the areas would all start to be the same. The environment is this massive colony ship just out of the orbit of Earth, and you're on your way to Mars. And I was worried it would all look the same. Now, I know that the game, again, is in early access, and as of right now, you only have access to Zones 1 and 2. Zone 1 being more of like a hangar and storage room, while Zone 2 is more of the crew quarters. And in my personal opinion, Zone 2 looks way cooler than Zone 1, and the general vibes of the area was pretty cool. You could see the bodies of dead passengers. They had cryo chambers on the walls, and you could see people inside of them. It was very cool. Zone 1 also had some nice rooms, like where you would fight the giant robot that dashes at you. It was very purple and orange. It was very cool looking, and the visuals were very nice. And I also really like the dark rooms with the cyborg spiders. It was very akin to Dead Space in my opinion, which made the game very atmospheric. But the issue is that they all do look the same. Now, the way Deadzone works is that there is this main story, which are each of the major zones. Then there are side missions, and the side missions are like specialty runs where you either only have one specific weapon type, like shotguns and SMGs, or sniper rifles and revolvers. You'll also have missions where you're only fighting one specific enemy type per room, and the enemy is randomly selected as you enter the room, so you can't prepare for what you'll fight. Now, these side missions are a lot of fun because it is a unique challenge and it changes the way you play. I also like how you're rewarded for these side missions. You're given extra augments that you can then use in the regular playthrough, or what you could consider the main campaign. Now, I do wish that the special side missions had different locations. For example, one of the missions you have is called CQC, and you can only use shotguns, handguns, and SMGs. All of the enemies are running at you, and you get surrounded very easily. It was a very fun playthrough because of how different I had to play. I really enjoyed it, but the maps were the same ones I've been playing on for the main story. And I already know that the room will be generally laid out in a very specific way, so I could use it to my advantage, whether that be luring enemies down a long hallway so I could just blast them all with one grenade, or get to a high point so enemies can't really hit me and I just mow them all down. I would like to see rooms that fit the missions a little bit better, at least for the side quests, not really that much for the main missions. Now, for the long range map, I wish I had to go through like some sort of massive cargo hold, where, like I mentioned earlier, the enemy variety is more varied, like snipers hiding in cargo containers that shoot me and then teleport. Or in the CQC room, I would have to run through ventilation ducts that enemies are crawling through, like on four legs, and scratch me or use spears, like try to hit me through the floor. I think it would really encourage people to play those side missions and more, and instead of just, as a way to progress the story. Now, with that being said, overall story wise, I really like the premise. I'm excited to see what happens in Zone 3 and how this wraps up the story or creates that gameplay loop that keeps you playing. Now, I won't give any spoilers. I will say that the crew logs are kind of irrelevant to the story. They do add some extra lore or ambiance, but besides that, you can pretty much ignore them and still have a general idea of what's going on. I will say that the boss fight in Zone 2 was pretty cool, and I like how I learned about it earlier in the run by the environmental storytelling. I had walked by a TV screen and my character had done a quick little one-liner, and then later on I end up finding that boss later in the game. I think Deadzone has a really good future ahead of it. I'm really excited to see what comes in the future updates. I will definitely be keeping an eye on this game and seeing what comes. I won't stop playing it because there are those little side missions, and a roguelike is one of those games that you can just keep going and get your real mileage out of it. I'm excited to see what happens, and I will definitely keep a close eye on this game and make future video updates for when the game is fully released.